What we're going to talk about is green business as a tool for social change, and how do you use what you're passionate about to both pay the bills but serve a greater mission. And just to get a sense, is anybody here running a green business, like maybe vendors or something? Excellent. Anybody have an idea for a business they're throwing around? Good, good. Anybody going maybe to a job on Monday that is totally different than this weekend, that their heart isn't in but is providing a paycheck? Excellent. Okay, good. That's what we're going to really be talking about, is how can you blend what you're passionate about, what drew you to this energy fair, what prompts your green mission, your earth mission, and how can you make that be a part of your life. And we'll share some of our personal stories in there as well. And on that personal note, we are on a farm about 3 hours due east of here in Serendipity, where we run a bed and breakfast, and we write on these issues and raise our son and do a whole lot of things, a little mini eco-zip code, if you will. We run our farm on renewable energy. And through the bed and breakfast, we've probably served over 1,000 breakfasts over the last 12 years since we've been open. And I've kind of come to this conclusion that everybody who comes through our door reminds me of food. And for those of you guys who were at my Organic Eating on a Dime presentation this morning, food's a real passion of ours. So that said, types of people. We have our carrots. Maybe you guys recognize some of these. They travel in bunches. They're kind of tall. They know what's going on. They're very straight, very narrow, and they prescribe things that we need to do. They've got strong opinions. We have the eggs. Eggs are really tough on the outside, hard shell, but you crack it a little, and they're real gooey, mushy, don't really know what's kind of going on. And then we have coffee, little beans kind of sticking together in a jar, not too interesting perhaps, but they hang out together. But the key I've learned with food and with people is what happens when we experience some tough times, what happens when adversity hits, when things change, when the environment starts changing, and we really need to do something about it. So basically what happens if we add hot water to the mix? Any reference to global warming? Feel free, feel free. All right, so we add the water in there. And then what happens? Well, we cooked our carrot, right? What happens to carrots once they hit hot water? They mush. They fall apart. These things that were strong in opinions and had the right answer to everything, all of a sudden, when true chaos hits, their theories don't work anymore. They fall apart. They turn to mush. And then we have the eggs. All right, they were hard on the outside, mushy on the inside before. Right now, they cook. What are they? They're mushy on the outside, hard on the inside. They totally changed. Sort of, whichever way the wind's blowing, whichever way the TV show's going, whichever way the polls are going, they change based on the situation. But nothing's really happening. But then we have those coffee beans, right? And what happens to coffee when it hits hot water? They change the situation. They take the hot situation, they take that hot water, and they make it into something better. In my opinion, something really good. And that's our theory on ECOpreneuring and our personal theory on life, and something I think we all share as kindred spirits at the fair. How can we change the situation? How can we be coffee and be those beans and look at the world today, see things with opportunity, work together, little beans, and come out with something even better? And that's what we're going to share with you guys in our brief time here together, is some ideas on some of these trends, some of these issues, and hopefully leave all of us with some seeds of inspiration to take back, to start thinking differently perhaps about our livelihood, our life, and our daily routines here. So on that note, what we're going to do specifically is John's going to talk a little bit about the climate for change, these big issues we're talking about, but looking at them really as a sense of opportunity. How can we look at these trends and create businesses, create livelihoods that support us but also support the planet, these changing trends? Then we're going to go through some 10 ECOpreneuring tips that I think are on that handout there, some different perspectives, nuggets of ideas to take home with you, and end with some resources. So John's going to kick things off. He promised me he's going to sum up the doom and gloom of the world in one slide. So let's see.
We have problems. As most of you folks know, we're actually experiencing this precipitous weather today as a result of, I think, the end result of a hurricane that passed through. We're going to get this in about 3 or 4 days from the one that's currently pulling into the Gulf. We have climate change, we have ecological collapse, we have peak oil, and we have this wonderful debt-based economy that we've been living in now for some time, and all of a sudden, guess what? It's coming due, and we're experiencing all sorts of issues, whether it's at the gas pump or whether it's trying to hang on to the ownership of our own home as a result of this economy that we've gotten involved with. We're really looking at reframing all of this now from the standpoint of being ecopreneurs and living in a restoration economy and being a part of a 21st century of small, localized, and very much focused on the sense of preserving the environment and our social fabric of our communities as a part of how we operate in the economy and we work in. And using business really as that catalyst for change to help make these kind of things happen. And for our standpoint, we really don't differentiate between for-profit and non-profit. So if we ask the question of hands in the audience of non-profit, it really doesn't make any difference because both are businesses. And you'll see a lot of non-profits out in the exhibitor area, and you'll see a lot of for-profit businesses. They're all serving a mission. And that mission, in one way or another, is to address social issues or environmental or ecological issues, and sometimes both. And what's happening actually in the business world and nonprofit world is you're seeing that actually hybridize to become B corporations, not S corporations or C corporations, but B for benefit corporations. And they're structuring themselves in various ways. We actually have 8 different ecopreneur profiles in ECOpreneuring. Our book addressing 3 of them are actually hybrid organizations that have for-profit and non-profit sectors. So it's really looking at that, and it's really redefining free enterprise to mean that every one of you folks out there don't have to go to Walmart or some other large corporation to meet all of your needs. That we have the ability right now in partnering with other like-minded organizations and people and organizations to really change the way we do business, and we all can be enterprising. And that's really the thrust of what we've come from, living in a corporate cubicle world into the environment we're in now. And the reality is there's a lot of folks like ourselves, an amazing number, in fact. 1 out of every 4 of the American workers are a free agent in various ways. So it's a huge amount. That's 33 million Americans that are in various ways working for themselves or working in a small business entity. There's 23 million micro enterprises, and that's 87% of all businesses with 5 or fewer employees. So this is a very large entity. It's not what we're hearing about. The politicians right now are talking all about jobs, but the reality is we need entrepreneurial spirit to become restored in a fundamental fabric of what has made America what it is, and we need to get back to that sense of running your own business. 75% of all businesses have only one person. You might know them. They're the artists, the craft people. People might help you build or fix up something in your house. These folks basically don't even have payroll oftentimes. What's nice is the U.S. Census Bureau, and in some cases the IRS, aren't even paying attention to us. And that's amazing when no one's paying attention to you, what you can do. And that's what our book's a little bit about, is if these millionaires get all this money and they keep making more money, it's tapping into the structures that are established for us and using those to power what we call our Earth mission. And I'll get to that in a second. If anyone thinks our free market global economy is working, I don't know what they're looking at. 5% of the world's resources uses 25% of the planet's resources. 5% of the people use 25% of the resources, produce 45% of the waste, and America has this proud distinction of housing 25% of the planet's prison population. And I could go on. There's lots of other relationships here that should give us some signals that the free market global economy is not sustainable. It's not working. And yet we just say, well, Russia collapsed, and therefore the communist system collapsed, and therefore ours is the best. And the reality is we're now getting the sense that it's not. We have federal government constantly bailing out huge multinational corporations, huge businesses. They're trying to just stop the bleeding right now. And it could get a whole lot worse. So we're all about trying to take control over that and control what you can. And you can do it oftentimes the best by running your own business. We've kind of been told that selling for less is better. We have a very different proposition where fair trade is our mantra, not free trade. It's respecting other people, other cultures, respecting the environment, and we embed that right into how we run our business. And guess what? There's a lot of people, 55 million people maybe, really like to shop with their values, but not that it's buying for less. There's people like out at these exhibit booths here that are trying to do right by the environment or by their community or by other countries, other cultures in other parts of the world, not to exploit them, but partner with them and work with them and help them grow economically and also preserve the environment at the same time. So this new sense of value is really emerging. The others, for the few of you that still work at a job somewhere, you realize you have almost no control over just about anything. And when we worked at a large ad agency, we couldn't even couldn't even decide when we could go out to eat or when we could take a holiday. We had to put in 6 months in advance if we wanted to spend a whopping week somewhere. You have very little control. And also, when you're working for a company with a payroll and a paycheck, there's lots of things that are automatically deducted from your paycheck before you ever see it. When you work for yourself, you can control that. You can decide how much payroll you want to have or what kind of rental income you want to have. Guess what? A lot of the wealthiest people don't have much payroll. Anyone know how much Steve Jobs is making? $1. That's how much he pays himself. This is the guy that, Apple computer, $1. Why does he not need payroll? Well, he doesn't want payroll. Payroll is bad. Payroll you have to pay taxes on. You could do all sorts of things that oftentimes are not taught in business school. And I went to business school, and the reality is a lot of what we're writing about and a lot of what we're doing now was never taught to me in business school because they were teaching me how to get a job in a large corporation like Procter & Gamble and go happily ever after in the suburbs. So the reality is we've really looked at that differently. And when you're working for someone else in a payroll type job, oftentimes it creates this sense of stress and your inability to control things. So by working for yourself in your own enterprise, you can regain that in various ways. And we'll touch on some things a little bit later on. But the reality is you're working hard for someone else, for someone else's dreams, or for someone else's profit or benefit. And that is really where we saw that we had a problem, is we really couldn't control that unless we started to do things for ourselves. And it's a part of this broader restoration economy that we're a part of right now. And anyone in Iowa knows all about the restoration economy. There's a lot of people that are rebuilding here. There's a lot of people in the Gulf Coast that are going to be rebuilding. There's a lot of people in California that are rebuilding. There's a lot of healing that needs to go on. And the green business idea is really going to be very, very instrumental in putting the pieces back together and hopefully, perhaps like it's going on in Kansas right now, rebuilding entire communities that are eco-minded from the get-go. So they think about passive orientation and renewable energy and so forth. But we're taking that availability of resources and trying to turn it from an unsustainable society into a sustainable society by being smarter and wiser on how we use resources. And look at our demand. And this is, unfortunately, what no one in the political arena wants to talk about, is that maybe our lifestyle is negotiable. And in fact, maybe nature is negotiating it for us. And we're talking about creating an enterprise that acknowledges that and then figures out how to prosper under that renegotiated environment that we're now living in. How do you do that? How do you actually have and achieve a certain sense of quality of life through that whole process? And it really comes down to operating a business or an enterprise with a triple bottom line. And by that I mean planet, people, and some profits. And for those who know what permaculture is and that sense of design in your garden, you know about sharing the abundance. Find a corporation sharing the abundance in a true way, and I will eat my hat. Because most of them are sharing a small percentage of the record profits they're actually getting. They do need to do a whole lot more than just donate a few cases of water like Walmart's doing to those poor people that are suffering the hurricanes. Walmart needs to step up to the plate because guess what? Walmart is shipping their stuff halfway around the world so that we can buy it for less here. They've changed the economics. They used to be buying American. They're not that anymore. How do businesses rethink things, trying to localize? And localization is a big part of that sense of community and people. And we really look at customers, workers, vendors, even investors can all be a part of that side. But it's the three sides that really make it work. And the other aspect is thriving in this honeybee economy, where we operate on renewable energy, not scarce fossil fuels. And that's sort of a theme here at this energy fair, is how do we get back to that renewable energy side of it. Bees thrive on nectar and honey. They have natural interdependencies, so much